Welcome back. I have not done an entertainment guide video in a bit, have I? So I wanted to just go over various stuff that I've been watching lately and just have one of these discussion videos. I apologize, I haven't been uploading on this channel as much, but we know it's hockey season. This is kind of what happens when it's hockey season. My time becomes a little more compressed. Where usually during the off season I can do videos in the morning, a bit in the afternoon, then in the evening I kind of have to myself. Once hockey season starts, I do videos in the morning. I have part of the afternoon to myself, and then I'm watching hockey in the evening. So the amount of time I have for a video for this channel does drop. Now, I wanted to talk about a couple movies that I have watched recently. First off, Elemental, which my wife loved. She saw twice in the theater. And so we watched it on Disney Plus, and honestly, it's a good movie. I'm glad that it stayed in the theaters long enough to make money back. And it shows how this movie flopped its first weekend. That's it, it's dead. It's such a stupid narrative. It is one of those things that drives me insane now when it comes to movies and TV shows, that 5 minutes after it's been released, you're like, well, that's it, that's done. And the streaming services are just as bad with the, well, we released it, it didn't do very well, I guess we'll just cancel it and start over. And, you know, let it actually breathe. Let people have a chance to discover this content rather than just saying, oh, it's canceled. I don't know what to do, it's canceled. Because then you leave it where it just feels like everything is disposable. So I'm glad Elemental stayed in the theater. I'm glad it made a profit. It did well. It's a really good movie. It's really well animated. I got Yvonne the DVD as well so she could watch the special features and all that fun stuff. And yeah, a really, really enjoyable movie. I thought it was fun. And I didn't think it was too schmaltzy or too lame or boring or any of that, which sometimes the animated movies can be. We also watched Haunted Mansion. I enjoyed it. I didn't expect to. Now, obviously with Haunted Mansion, if they had leaned into the scary part of it, you might have had a little bit more coherent of a movie. And there are parts of the movie where tonally it is a little bit off. And you could tell that they wanted to make it a family-friendly kind of movie while also maintaining some of the scares and some of the mystery behind it. But I thought it was fine. I thought it was an entertaining concept. And I thought that, I mean, it's probably not one I'm going to watch again, but for a one-time viewing thing, sure. So if you're looking for a movie to watch this Halloween that everybody in the family can watch, Haunted Mansion works. It didn't get very good reviews, but with what's come out about Rotten Tomatoes lately, I'm not really paying any attention to it anymore. I'm kind of done with it. So yeah, Haunted Mansion, good movie. Not great. There's definitely some areas of the movie where you're kind of scratching your head and going, I don't know what they were thinking here. But yeah, so I did enjoy it. Of course, Kitchen Nightmares is back. I watched the first episode with the return with my wife. I saw an article, actually, and then I saw a video as well was it on Style Theory or Food Theory, where they were talking about Kitchen Nightmares and Matt Pat talking about, you know, how restaurants that are on Kitchen Nightmares, very few of them end up lasting. Yeah, that's why they get called. It's the same as Bar Rescue with John Taffer. And might I say, if we ever get a crossover where it's a Bar Rescue and Kitchen Nightmares, I would be so happy to have John Taffer out front in the bar throwing crap around while Ramsey's in the back throwing crap around. I think it would be entertaining. But Kitchen Nightmares being back, it's great. And I do expect that most of the businesses will probably end up going under, because by the time they contact, whether it's Kitchen Nightmares, whether it's Bar Rescue, they're already in debt. They're already in trouble. They're already facing a lot of uncertainty. So hopefully for the businesses that get helped, whether it's Bar Rescue or Kitchen Nightmares, they can make it work. But keep in mind, it's still the same owners most of the time. There was the one episode where I think John had forced them to sell, but which was interesting. But generally, it's the same owners at the end as at the start, and those are the owners that kind of allowed things to fall into that state of disrepair. So it is entertaining. I thought it was actually kind of short. The Kitchen Nightmares first episode, I was like, that's it? All right. I didn't feel like there was as much conflict as I'm used to on the show, but looks like the second episode, there's more of that. So we've started watching, too, The Amazing Race, the American version. We watched Amazing Race Canada. What a difference. Amazing Race Canada, they stay in Canada. It is very low budget. It is very heavy on the advertising. Brought to you by Guru Energy Drink. Brought to you by the new Chevrolet, whatever it is. and what else was it? Expedia. They were always talking about Expedia. This is given to you by, this is brought to you by, brought to you by. And it's constant. And it's constant during the show. Like the advertisements are during the show, and then they go to commercial, and it's the same things. They're so you're like, holy crow. This is just so hard to watch. But then the American one, nope, they go all around the world. I didn't see, like, the product placement is there. I'm not saying there isn't product placement, because there is, but it's subtle. And it's like, for instance, when they start the race and everybody's driving the same vehicle, the same make of car, right? Like, okay, so they have a deal with Chev, they have a deal with Toyota or Ford or whoever. But yeah, the Amazing Race Canada, they really beat you over the head with who the sponsors are. And it's just so weird. And then they go places like Terrace, and we're in Airdrie, Alberta, and it's like, but see, these aren't exactly the sites. Like, if you're not Canadian and you're watching, you'd be like, Canada's boring. I always heard it was boring, but look at some of these things, and then some of the challenges are just not ones that I was a big fan of. There were numerous challenges on Amazing Race Canada this year that I was like, this is just stupid. And I have not had that feeling with Amazing Race, the American version, yet. The destinations are awesome. Everything's gorgeous. Just some fantastic stuff. It's the better show. It is. And so Yvonne and I are having the difficulty now of, next time Amazing Race Canada's on, are we going to watch it? And I don't know that I know the answer to that right now. So I've talked about AEW and WWE before, and I have been very clear. I am not tribal. I am not tribal. I want both companies to succeed and do well. Both companies have things they're doing well. Both companies have their share of issues, right? AEW, the ratings should be higher. I don't think they're marketing themselves very well. I think what we're seeing with AEW is a lack of marketing, a lack of really having that planning. There are so many wrestlers in AEW that could be big megastars, and it feels like they're just, I don't know, they're tripping over themselves. And in WWE, I think they're doing well. I think there are some storylines that go on too long. I think there are some wrestlers who don't get on TV because they have way too many main event level wrestlers. But the big thing right now with wrestling is Tony Khan's meltdown. And I do think that Tony Khan needs to get out of his own way. For this company, for AEW to really and truly get to that next level, I think Tony Khan should be the money man. And I think he needs somebody else to be the promoter and doing all of the wrestling stuff. Now, I understand he loves the wrestling. I understand he loves all that. So do I. I love wrestling. I like sponsoring wrestling and all of that fun stuff. I've talked about that in previous videos as well. I think the independent scene is really awesome, and I'm glad to see OVW getting all the attention from wrestlers, because wrestling is very entertaining. It is entertaining. It's weird, but it's entertaining. But Tony Khan and the way that he behaves, I think, is part of the reason why there are people who are cheering for AEW's downfall. I would not cheer for that, because you're putting a bunch of wrestlers out of business, putting them out of pretty well-paying jobs, and they're not going to be able to get those jobs elsewhere. And if they do, they're taking that job from somebody else, because it's not like if AEW failed, there'd be another startup that would make the same amount of money or have the same amount of TV exposure. So Tony Khan, his meltdown seemed to be along the lines of, the fact that they got beaten in the ratings by NXT. I don't think he liked that, but who cares? Seriously. The problem is when you're deciding, all right, I'm going to war against my enemies and vindicating myself and whatever else, however you want to look at it, that it just makes him look like a kid. It makes him look petulant, and it's not the way that a businessman should behave. He should be the money man. He should be the businessman, and stay out of this. Basically, stay out, stay above all of it. There have been numerous times now where I've thought, if Khan hadn't said anything, this would have blown over a lot quicker. So that's my advice to him at this point. Just stop. Major League Baseball. So Rob Manfred under some fire here. So you have the wild card round while the top seeds are sitting out and waiting. And so there are some who believe that it's too long of a wait, that these teams get cold waiting. And so the wild card winners come in and take them out, as evidenced by the fact that our final four teams are Texas, Houston, Arizona, and Philadelphia. My issue with that would be, are these teams going to draw TV ratings? Now, it really depends, right? You have to have a big market to get those ratings, and you also have to have a really interesting story. I do think if it was like Arizona against Texas, well, that could be quite an interesting story right there. If it's Houston, Philadelphia, sure, but if Houston wins a World Series, anyways. But yeah, so before Game 4 last night, Rod Manfred said it's only year 2 for the new system for the playoffs. But yeah, there's a lot of complaining. And my issue with that is simple. I do think there's too many teams now to make the playoffs in baseball. I remember when there were 4, one team in each division, and I remember thinking, you know what? That is awesome. It's great that it is that hard to make the playoffs. That when you win a pennant, it's a big deal, right? So if you lost in the AL or NL division series, it was fine. You're still one of the top 4 teams in baseball. But now we've got a whole bunch of teams that make it, almost half the league. And so while it does generate more revenue because more teams are still in the hunt and it makes you think more teams can be in it, well, it means there are more teams that are in it. When you have the shortened series, which both the wild card, which is best 2 out of 3, and then it's best 3 out of 5 in the next round, yeah, you're going to see upsets. Best 3 out of 5, all you need to have is 3 really good pitchers. 3 good games, and you're in. You're done. That's it. That's it. You're fine. All you have to do is steal that first game on the road, and all that pressure is on the other team because now they have to win 3 out of 4. So I do think that it's a setup that is going to lead to upsets all the time. And the problem with that is it does go against baseball tradition where if a team has 100 wins, they should be in the final 4. But with this setup now, there's no guarantee they will be. And again, I mean, on some level, I'm thinking, but if they were that good, they should have got out of that round. But, well, this has been a discussion in hockey for how many years? You win the President's Trophy, it's a jinx. Maybe we're going to start to see that in baseball. The teams that have 105 wins, 103 wins, end up being out early in the playoffs, and we can have that discussion about whether or not they peak too soon or, maybe they just don't have the right matchups. Maybe these teams have a better matchup, and they're more prepared. So I'm not going to spoil anything with Shoresy Season 2. I am caught up on how many episodes have been released. There are a couple more episodes, or one episode I think releasing today in Canada, not in the US, so I'm not going to give any spoilers. I have enjoyed Season 2 thus far. I think that it does a really good job of maintaining the vibe from the first year, even though the storyline is completely different. It's got that really great Canadian vibe. It is the most Canadian show that I think I've ever watched. I have watched Season 1 4 times. I think I'm done watching Season 1 now at the 4th time. I'm already driving my wife kind of crazy with quoting the show every time she asks me a question. Or throwing in while she's answering a question of mine. But it is my favorite show. And so I wanted to wear my Blueberry Bulldogs jersey, which I wore at the meetup last weekend when we played street hockey. And so I'm glad that I was out there wearing my Blueberry Bulldogs. And I didn't get a goal, but at least I broke my stick, which I think when you're wearing a jersey from Shoresy, you're supposed to. I never broke my stick before. I didn't even hit the net that hard. It's just, the guy scores. I felt like that was my fault. He got by me, so I just tapped the net with my stick, and the stick broke. And I'm like, okay. But looking at it after, it's really shredded. I think there was a hairline crack in it to begin with. It was going to fall apart anyways. It did not hit the net that hard. But again, Shoresy jersey may have caused that. And if you've watched the show, you know how many times he breaks his stick. It's often. That would be expensive. That would be. The one thing I do wonder with Shoresy is just the amount of stuff that all the expenses. I'm thinking how can Nat make any money? Bringing in Michaels and all the money she's paying. How in the world would she have made any money even if you had bums and seats? But anyways, that's a whole discussion for a whole other time. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.